Any idea why I played that at a nonprofit class? So that piece is called, I mean, I'm not surprised that you didn't have any idea because it's an odd thing to do, but that piece is called The Oracle, a sea shanty for the high desert. And I wrote it for this town. And so it's based on an artwork that's just down the street. If you've been by the post office, there's a mining cart with a sail coming out of the top. And the reason for that artwork, this is by the way by our local artist Christopher Lusick, but the reason for that artwork is because the town of Oracle is first a mining town, and second, it's named after a ship, a clipper ship called the Oracle. And so it's the combination of those two elements, hence the sea shanty for the high desert. Right? So and this clipper ship started in San Francisco and sailed south around Cape Horn, and then came up on the other side, and I docked in San Francisco. Did I say San Francisco already? It came from Boston, then it came up to San Francisco. And then the guy came off the boat and wandered east to this town, where he started a mine called the Oracle, and then it was later the town of Oracle. So that was the inspiration behind that piece. By the way, that clipper ship ultimately sunk at Cape Horn, which is a cool story in itself. But anyway, I played it because it kind of represents a lot of what I try to do with my role here as a nonprofit leader with the Oracle Piano Society, that I try to understand the culture that I'm in, understand what's the needs of that culture, and also try to bring together lots of different people, different art forms, and different stories. So that's the reason for the piece. But I'll go a little bit further into the history of the Oracle Piano Society in a moment. First, I wanted to ask also what you think. What do you think a nonprofit is? Does anybody want to just tell me what you think a nonprofit is? Yes.
I'm not sure, but I've worked for a couple of nonprofits.
Good.
Mostly it's teachers for music schools and stuff. So my idea is that there's definitely money involved, but I think it's like a business, but the primary purpose is not to make money.
That's right.
It's to contribute to the community and do something cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's if you compare it to a for-profit business is a business that's the purpose of the business is to make money. A nonprofit is mission-based. So the organization sets a mission, whatever it is, they find a need, and then they put all of their emphasis on accomplishing that mission, rather than thinking how do we increase our profits. So money is necessary for both forms of business, but this form of business is not money-driven, so that's the difference there. And I will put up our mission, the Oracle Piano Society. If I can navigate there. Oops. There's a bunch of students. The Oracle Piano Society creates barrier-free classical music performance and education opportunities for rural, underserved communities through innovative performances and dynamic educational events. So that's our mission statement. We have someone here who has had a lot of experience in nonprofit, and wanted to talk or ask about the mission a little bit.
Hi there, I'm Craig Anderson. I'm a resident here at Oracle and have lived here since 2016. I have served on boards, been presidents of boards, and done fundraising for nonprofits most of my life, starting actually in high school. And then I've owned two of my own businesses, one for 25 years. And so a couple of thoughts that I wanted to share with you about the journey and adventure you're on. Number one, you have a unique opportunity to reach and touch the spirit center of other human beings. And that is a rare opportunity to have that ability through your skills as an artist. And I never underestimate how my own spirit is touched. And so yesterday at the end of the performance, when the second to the last performance in, is it Aldo plays the violin?
Yeah, no, Ilmar plays the violin.
Oh, Mark?
Ilmar, yeah.
Yeah, so when he played the violin, you remember there was a section there that for a few moments he was playing very high and very soft. It touched me so deeply. I cried like a baby. I was sitting in the third row here sobbing because it touched my soul, my spirit. And all of you in this room have a unique opportunity to do that because you're in the arts. Now, the other thing, though, that I have learned in my experience, that being clear about your mission, your focus, your purpose as an artist will not only increase your satisfaction in this style, in this lifestyle, but it also gives you an opportunity to bring satisfaction and joy and spiritualness to other people. So when you look at this statement up here, I want you to focus on it. There's a few really key phrases up there. I want you to think for a moment, and I'd like to hear you identify that and tell me why you're reacting to that. Why do you think that's so important? Maybe give it a shot. Yeah.
I'm drawn to the
Here,
section.
this-
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, I'm drawn to the section about rural underserved communities because I'm from one,
Mhm.
and it had a really strong music program for how small and underfunded it was, and it really pushed me onto the trajectory I am now. So I really relate to other communities like that.
Okay.
Who need more support.
So, see, you connected with that, didn't you? There are other people that have history of rural communities or exposure to rural communities. And many of us that have lived in those communities, we know they're quite often underserved in so many ways, educationally, culturally, etc. And so I commend Stephen for putting that in there because it clearly says, and then you look at all the things he's done and continues to do here and thinks about for the future, it is fulfilling that component of it. Okay, yeah, here, pass that down.
I was just kind of drawn to the barrier-free aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important that every student should have the opportunity to participate in music, and a lot of times it's not available for some of them.
Yeah.
And so it's great that this exists to remove those barriers.
Yes. And as you know, yeah. And as probably you know, and I've already discovered that through Stephen's efforts, we have very young people. We're now trying to encourage, support, bring along. And what, I'm going to say this, but a society that's, hey, we're kind of highfalutin, we play highfalutin music, and then you start one of your regular monthly concerts here with a 7 or 8 year old child playing for the first time, their first performance, the power of that for them. And then it also touches me, connects with me spiritually too, because that's the future. Anyone else react to any other key phrases up there? So Stephen, I have a question for you about this. Here you go. So there's a couple of words up there that kind of grabbed me, and you said through innovative performances and dynamic educational events. So I want to look at the two words. Talk about innovating and dynamic.
Sure. I mean, that's the other thing that we have to energize our audience. As you know, most of you are still in school, I think, in university or heading that way. That you have to perform recitals to complete your major. You play juries, and all the time you do that, there are these faculty who are highly trained musicians in the audience, and so you present the music in a certain way so that you can get a grade and fulfill your degree requirement. But when you graduate, most of the people in your audience are not going to be highly trained musicians. Probably the majority will have maybe little to no training at all in music. And so you have to transform yourself once you get out of school from the mindset of a student into somebody who's now an advocate or an ambassador for the type of music that you studied and that you love. And so you have to think about ways to communicate that passion that you have for music to an audience that is not full of faculty members. And if we look historically in the past, the piano recital I'm speaking piano, but you guys are other instrumentalists too. But the recital was actually invented by Franz Liszt. The term started then, and so that was the origin of that way of presenting music. And when he was presenting music, if you look at any of his programs, they're very different from the type of program that you might see at a faculty or a degree recital. And so that's one of the components that we use here to generate interest in the community. We present music in unusual ways, often combining the arts, collaborating with other members of the community, people who are artists or historians or any number of different types of. We've done silent movie screenings with an orchestra on stage, including a wind machine. We've done wine tasting concerts. We've done all sorts of wild things, but we still present great music. It's just that it's given in a way that people that may not have a music degree will enjoy, and actually I enjoy much more, even though I have a music degree. But anyway, so that's that component, and the education component also is what kind of unifies everything that we do. So we have a 10-concert series where we bring in, you can see some of them here, the Van Cliburn winners and high-level performers. But those performers also work with our students who attend our conservatory. So we have a bunch of local students who receive free weekly lessons and also have weekly classes at this high school, or not high school, it's a PK through 12 school that's in Mammoth, San Manuel, that doesn't have any music other than what we're offering. So that's offered by our faculty assistant, Lorena Candelaria, who's spectacular. But the way we tie that together is that the students, when these great performers come to town, the students have a class we call Piano and Pizza. So they get to hear whatever the performer wants to talk about. They might do a little class, they might teach them something, but they get the exposure to these performers, and then they have pizza. And then after that, the next day when the performer has the concert, the students begin the concert. So they might be very, very beginning students playing like hot cross buns, but then after that they see the world-renowned performer, so they're seeing all levels of music performance, and now they also attended this chamber music festival. So we have the connection there. All of our programs are interconnected in that way. So does that answer the question about the innovative?
So I kind of have another one for you. Sure. Because of the age of most of the people in here. So when did you begin for yourself to formulate this vision, this mission? Now, in the earlier phases, it may have not been recognized as a vision or mission, but how young were you, or do you remember the circumstances when this sort of began to come together for you?
That's a perfect question, and it's almost as if it was scripted, but I swear it's not. It's not scripted. But he asked like what I was just going to talk about, so that's great. Yeah. So I like you, I was a student. As a music student, struggled with the issue of, what do you do with this thing that we're working on? We're spending hours and hours a day on something that seems like nobody cares about, and so it's really easy to get disillusioned by that. And so I guess it was kind of an evolution. I felt that way for a long time. I think probably a lot of us feel that way, the classical performers. But I read something in a book. This was by the pianist and teacher Heinrich Neuhaus. Pianists will know his name, but he wrote a great book on piano playing. And so there are, wonderful, beautiful examples of principles of piano playing and music making. But the thing that stuck out to me was just one little line. Actually, I think I have it in the slides, so I'll just go back to the slideshow here. Let's see here. Now I have to figure out what I'm doing. Oh, that's the clipper ship, by the way. I forgot to tell you. That is the Oracle. Now, Heinrich Neuhaus. What is general in our task, and from which all particular aspects and details flow, is the need to create a high level of musical culture. And so he talked a lot about the specifics of piano playing in the book, but this was the most important thing for me, that once you get out of the practice room, it's your job to continue the tradition. And if you don't, then there's no guarantee that it will continue. There are a lot of people doing it, but it takes a lot of work. And I can tell you that in Oracle, we didn't have something like this before this was started in 2012. So you can have an impact if you do something like that. You go to a town that doesn't have something and then bring it to them. So that, for me, gave me the context needed, and it resonated in a way that I started thinking about, how I can build culture. What's the most impactful way to do that? And so, the details are, I was dating my wife back then, and her parents lived here. So I had never seen Oracle before. And when I was going up to visit, I saw the town and visited some of their art shows and things like that, and thought this is a perfect place to start a music festival. So that's why that was started.
So I want to make this one final quick comment about missions. So mission statements are also a critical part of for-profit. And I believe that mission statements are an important part of our personal lives. I am very soon going to be 82 years old, but I have a mission statement that sits right above my computer, that when I turn it on every morning, it is there to remind me what is my purpose at this point in my life. And the most common mistake I have seen in both for-profit and non-profit businesses is not to use their mission statement to inspire and connect with other people. So I have told executives, both nonprofit and profit, every time you have a meeting, you start with what your mission is. Remind people, why are we gathering? Why are we putting all of these hours in? Why are we dealing with some of the frustrations or complexities that occur? And your mission statement will guide you through that.
Thank you so much, Craig. That's really wonderful insight. And so I'll give you a little bit of a history of Oracle Piano Society, and then I'll kind of, the purpose of this class as a mission, I guess related to mission, I should tell you what the purpose is. I'm not telling you should start a nonprofit. I'm just giving you an example of something that I did to answer this question about building culture. and to me this was the right direction, but it's not for everybody. But I wanted to give you an outline of what the basics are of what I do, and also maybe some specifics toward the end. But first, I'll just tell you, I have some slides about the history, not very many, but a couple, I think. Well, that's our logo. That actually, by the way, our logo was designed by a local artist. So right there, Michael Moore, we collaborated with a local artist. That's part of how, I think we were successful, because we work with people in the community. This is when we got our first piano, and it's that one over there, the bald one over there. That was it was donated by the Arizona Opera, and this is kind of a fun fact. I was teaching at an arts high school, and I got a call, or they got a call. They were going to donate this piano, and the arts high school didn't want it. And so then I said, well, we'll take it. We didn't have a building or anything, but we took this huge piano. So we moved it to this place called the Triangle Y Ranch Camp, which I accidentally sent some students to a while ago when we were, instead of going to the Triangle L. So anyway, that's a different story. But it was in there for a while, and then pack rats got into it. So there was an urgency to get it out of there. And so there was a place available, this place. It was an old Masonic temple, and it was the Masonic lodge had closed down. And so we were able to rally the community to purchase the building. Before that, we had our board meetings at the fire department, which is where this is displayed. And actually, your concerts are also now still displayed on this little sign at the fire department. This is what is this? I don't know what this is, but let's see. Oh, there we go, look at that.
Yeah!
Drone video. You've seen this building already, but I've done this at other places, so I have people need to see what it looks like. But anyway, that's our Oracle Center for the Arts. We've done a lot to it. We've built the stage here. We put in, different flooring in the front and bathroom and all that. It's a beautiful place to see a concert with wonderful acoustics. And but having our own space was a real game changer for us, because when we started, we were renting a concert space for our concerts, and it was a lot of stress, because if you didn't get enough seats sold, then you would have a financial loss, and you wouldn't have the flexibility that you could have to do your own thing. So in this case, for this organization, it was a good thing to have our own building. Moving to the next slide, I don't know why it didn't. So now this is just an example of the concerts that we have, which you know very well. And our students here, these are some of our students. This is our band class at Mammoth San Manuel. And again, they didn't have any music education until we started offering the program. And then this is our last year. Last year, we were able to bring 4 Cuban students. We got 5-year visas for Cuban students to come attend our festival. So that was an international scope that we've had. And that's part of, I think, also why we're successful, is that while we serve Oracle, we have international affiliations. We're partnered with the Van Cliburn competition and the Busendorfer competitions, and we have, bring artists from all around the world. So we're kind of known here, but also on the map internationally and nationally. And the more we reach out, we build that reputation. This is fun. This we had during the pandemic. So, we've been around since 2012, and we've had lots of challenging years. If you have a long-range program like this, then you're bound to see, have some issues. So, of course, in 2020, the pandemic shut down all live performance. However, we were able to have a full concert series. All of our, 9, not 10, but we had 9 concerts during the middle of the pandemic because we had an innovative dynamic performance model of a drive-in concert. And we had, so on the back of our building, and sometimes at the front, depending on where the sun was, we would set up instruments, and then we had people drive up, and we had a pirate radio station so they could tune in their car. If they were comfortable, they could sit outside, you know. But, and that is how we got through the pandemic. We even, as you can see in that video, that image, we projected a live performance on the back wall at night. So I was in here playing, and the audience was outside watching a live concert. So it was a lot of fun. And that was exciting, even though it was not a very fun time. I did enjoy problem solving during that time. So then we've also gone through issues like fires, and this is a small town that is very susceptible to forest fires, and there have been a couple of really major ones, and this organization played a small role in kind of helping at least keep community spirits up during that time. And we also donate our space so that when emergency crews come in, they can use the facility. So that's another way that within, outside of the musical scope, we're still interlocked with the community. And I think that's a big important thing, that people see that music organization, classical music organization, is part of the mainstream community, which in a way doesn't always come off that way. So this is just an example of one of the things during this fire, we would put out videos and send emails and things like that. But then this brings us to kind of a series of principles that I've used to guide what I do here, and I think that they have been, oh, look at that. You can't see them all. I'll read them to you. I think the projector's slipping. So I'll just read the top couple. So the first one is understand the cultural needs of the community you serve and find innovative and effective ways to meet those needs. Number 2 is know the people, existing culture, and history of the area you're serving. Highlight that unique identity and work to instill a sense of community pride. 3 is establish partnerships with local businesses, nonprofit and for-profit within the community served. 4 is to present cultural programs in unique and compelling ways to engage the local community. 5 is to include members of the community in cultural presentations through collaborative projects. 6, seek out members of the community who may not feel welcome and include them. And 7, foster a sense of community ownership in the cultural mission and make culture a part of the community's everyday experience. So those are, I would say, the primary, principles. I would add to that the international component, that trying to also, reach out to communities around the country and the world to elevate the profile of the organization. So that's, let's see here. Oh yeah, these are just some fun pictures. And then, this is what I wanted to say. So, all of you do really complicated and challenging things. You play music that is extremely difficult. You have these amazing set of skills to make music, and those skills, once you get out of the piano, or I shouldn't say, once you get out of the practice room, those skills translate very well to other avenues. You can use your determination, your problem-solving skills, your flexibility, all of these things that it takes to learn a Beethoven sonata or the Brahms trio or something, and apply them to what your goal is, and you'll be surprised at how well that translates. This video kind of highlights that. Oh, of course, the sound doesn't see now. Hold on a second. I have great time.
I can tell you I don't have money, but what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Yeah. That fell totally flat. You all have a very particular set of skills. And you can go out into the world and do all of these things. I think that's my, let me just see what else I have to say. Oh yeah. So, now, I didn't really talk about specifics. Are you interested in hearing about the details? Do you have any questions about like the process of incorporating and things like that? I can go through the basics of that if any of you are interested. Do you want to know the steps? Okay, I'll tell you the step. I don't know how detailed you want, but the first step is you the first step always should be, you know, your mission. What do you want to do? So that's where we really started. You know, to have the urge to do something that has an impact, and then the technical side of things. You have to reserve a name with the Corporation Commission. These are boring things, so if you get tired, just tell me. But in Arizona, that's how it works. There might be other ways in different states, but here you have the Arizona Corporation Commission that you reserve the name. Then you file articles of incorporation, which are a series of kind of that describe your purpose and then describe the board that you have, because you have to form a board of individuals. And then you have to have bylaws, which are like the constitution for your organization. And you have to be very careful to construct those in a way that you kind of have to see the future when you're making your bylaws, because there might be things that come up in the future that can cause problems for you if you don't put something in writing. So it's important to take your time with that step. And then you have then basically incorporated, you incorporate with the Arizona Corporation Commission here and in other places similar, but you don't have tax exempt status yet, so you can operate as a nonprofit, but can't accept donations. That's the primary function, or the fundraising function of a nonprofit is collecting donations and grants and things like that, so you can guarantee your donors that they get a tax write-off, and that's the coveted thing. So when we started, we didn't have it, so we had to get what they call a fiscal sponsor, and that fiscal sponsor then acts as an organization. We become a program of that organization, and then they take a percentage of whatever we fundraise. So the checks that are written to us go to that organization, and then they will distribute the funds to us if we give them receipts and things. And that's how that works. So for the first couple of years, we were fiscally sponsored by the Arizona Commission of something or other, Arizona Community Foundation. There's so many commissions and foundations. But then I wrote the application to the IRS. It's a long application, and then you send that in, and at the time it was, I think, an $800 fee or something. And it took us several years. In fact, I had to call our senator and complain that they hadn't processed our application yet. And then right after I called them, we got approved. So it's kind of a funny situation. But that's the basics of it. Then we hold monthly board meetings, sometimes twice a month, depending on what's going on. And that's the basic operation of the nonprofit. So if you're all still awake about that, does anybody have questions about, yes?
So all the nonprofits I've worked for have been either as a teacher or some sort of, they pay me. I get money from them.
Sure.
So I'm not going to a nonprofit and volunteering exactly.
Yes.
Does that also apply for if I were to start a nonprofit and, it takes a lot of time, if you want to devote your life and make this nonprofit very big, can you pay yourself a paycheck?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that, because that's really the practical question that everybody needs to answer. You have to survive, so yes, the answer is that you can do all that, but there are guidelines and restrictions on how things operate. So, and what I did when I wrote the bylaws is I used the IRS's conflict of interest policy. I just copied it and put it in because I didn't want to get any issue. So the best practice for if you are receiving a salary or something like that is that you can't vote on the board. So I don't have any voting power. Ultimately, the board could vote me out if they didn't like me. So that's the risk you take. You lose direct control over your organization if you're going to get paid. And but that's the way that you avoid fraud and things like that. So that's what we follow that. But it's true that it takes a long time to get to that point where you can make any kind of meaningful income. I was doing this for free for 5 years before I finally got something, and then it took another 5 years before it was better. But that's how it works. And so I'm glad you asked that question, because that's probably the first question that everybody has, and sometimes it's not clear. So that's how we handle it here. But you have to raise the funds, so it may not take that long. It depends on how you fundraise and all that. Yes.
That's a question. How hard is it to raise funds?
How hard? That's a great question, and I think Craig had he was going to do something with that. Well, he was a great fundraiser, and he might have some insight. It is hard to raise funds if you are, approaching it in a way that's not organic and natural. To me, and he has more details, but I'll just tell you my experience, because I was very uncomfortable asking for money for a long time. And then I realized that, if your mission has meaning, then there's nothing wrong with asking for money for it. And people won't get offended if you say, I'm trying to raise money to give rural students free lessons. It's not hard. If the mission is meaningful, it's not hard. So that would be my short answer. But you have more details on that because you have a lot of experience. So.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. So a couple of quick responses. First of all, I'm going to take a slight little deviation for a second, and it's about leadership. I believe that there's no such thing as a natural leader or a natural fundraiser or a natural musician. Now, you have gifts to different degrees, but in all the things I've mentioned, you have to put in the practice time, don't you? You have to develop your skills at leadership and at fundraising. So it's scary to move into areas. I mean, think about maybe your first performance or something like that, how scary it is. But as you continue to develop those skills, you build confidence in your ability to do them, just like when you perform. And then when you reach out to the community to develop a board or whatever, and you continue to have been working on your leadership skills and your fundraising skills, you get better and better and better at it. And as you do that, you produce more and more results. Now, specifically about fundraising, you can get any number of books that are 101 of fundraising, and there's all the obvious things of little activities. And we got a Christmas tree out here. Well, that's not quite the name of it, but people who have donated to society, they got their name out there on that. There's lots of little things, and the success of your organization is dependent upon a lot of smaller donations and fundraising events and activities, bake sales, if you will. And then there's the big side of it, and when I was with the Arizona Red Cross and we're fundraising for them, then you're working with intentionally prominent people in your community. And prominent people, when I say your community, it's not only your local community, the prominent people there, but the community which you're a part of. And you're part of a bigger community of the community of arts, which is visual arts and musical arts, etc. So then the scary part of that for a lot of us is to start reaching out, and Stephen used that word, reaching out to prominent people And what I have learned in my experience is that the mission is real important and your passion for the mission. I've also learned that prominent people are attracted to different components of your mission. So you may, part of developing and cultivating prominent people is to listen and understand what's important to them. Why are they in this community, for example? Stephen does an incredible job of interacting with people and getting to know people. And in my experience, he's a very good listener because he's taken ideas that were thrown at him just one time in casual, and the next year it's part of the agenda. You know, you never know what's going to come out. But so what I'm saying with prominent people, you need to interact with them enough to understand what's important to them. Now, some of them have a broad thing, which is they want to support the arts, big picture. But you'll find other prominent people who not only want to support the arts, but when you get into ideas of bringing along younger people, putting programs in local schools where they don't exist, those people will jump up and are just as supportive as the ones that are maybe supporting a bigger picture. So that interaction and listening, and that can be a little scary at first, but it's a learned skill. And you, human beings, we can communicate and listen to each other and talk to each other. But I want to underline over and over the word listen, listen, listen a lot. So I'm going to tell you a very quick story, and this importance of reaching out to people and prominent people. So I'm involved in a little nonprofit here called Kids Railroad, and it's designed for our local school to teach children about the impact that the railroads had the development on the western part of the United States, and particularly Arizona. There are two railroads that service Arizona. One's Union Pacific, and the other is Burlington Northern in Santa Fe. We did not have any rolling stock or locomotives from BNSF. And so, now this is the reaching out part. I did a real research on BNSF and found out that the woman is currently the CEO, worked her way up through from the mailroom, got a degree in civil engineering, then got a degree in law, and now runs for Berkshire Hathaway, the BNSF Railroad, which is the largest freight railroad in North America. I wrote her a letter and said, we need a BNSF locomotive, buy me one. Now, that's the short version, but I gave her our mission. I gave her some of the principles, sent some pictures of kids at the railroad. 2 days later, this woman, the CEO of BNSF Railroad, sent me an email and said, I can't buy you the stuff through the railroad, but we have a charitable organization, and I'll have the head of my human resources contact you, and we'll do it. 3 days later, the head of human resources from the largest railroad in North America sends me an email and says, how much do you want? We'll do it. And so we got the story. So part of what we're kind of trying to say here, the importance of reaching out to people. Don't make assumptions about who they are or what they care for or whatever. Reach out, ask, tell your story, give them a chance to engage with you. And my experience has been that you don't win all the time, but you do have a lot of success stories. Can I make another comment? So here's something else to learn. When you're dealing with prominent people, they usually, and I mean prominent in terms of usually here in American culture, that means money, and also political power and connection, that these are people that usually have strong egos and personalities. And you need to know that and not be naive that they may first negatively respond or treat you in a way that you feel doesn't respect your skills, your talent, or whatever it might be. But it's important that you engage them in ways to find out what it is they care about. That's what you're doing, and you got to cut through all of the other stuff about how you're treated or how long you had to wait out in the foyer before they brought you into the meeting or whatever it might be. Having said that, because they are strong people and supporters, some of them want to influence, and it's part of their mentality about a legacy, about who you are and what you are doing. And you have to be on guard for that. I'm trying, so you're not being naive about what could happen. And the moment they start, or you get concerned about, they're taking you in a direction or trying to influence something that is not consistent with your mission, your guidelines. And so those things that Stephen listed up there, the different guidelines, I applaud you hugely for those. But those are the things that you have to watch out for and protect if you want to sustain your organization and your role within that organization. There's also a time that sometimes you have to invite those people to leave. And that's a hard conversation, especially when you know you're not going to get the $10,000 check anymore. But if what they're doing is threatening what you're all about and the good things that you've done, then you have to step up, or your board has to step up and ask those people to leave the organization. That's also true of volunteers as well. Yes?
One more question.
Hold
then.
on a second.
Sure. What is the benefit of having nonprofit versus profit? Yeah. Why nonprofit? Why not profit?
Stephen wants you.
Sure, yeah. Well, I think, there are benefits to both models. The reason for a nonprofit is usually because it wouldn't be viable otherwise. And so I think, that if you have an organization that's giving away free lessons and free everything, basically, that it's not very viable. So I think the benefit for us is we're viable because we have, so many members of the community who support us, and we're able to apply to grants and things. That's a benefit too. You're able to apply to grants, things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's the disadvantages are that you don't have direct control. You have, you might have political, challenges and things like that. But so, for a for-profit, it's you can do whatever you want, basically, So that's the disadvantage. It's not really a disadvantage because it's such a rewarding experience to work with all these people, and if you get the right board, which we have a spectacular board right now, so it's a very rewarding thing, and you meet so many people that you wouldn't, because so many people rally around a cause that's important, and so you meet people you would never meet before. Whereas if you're a for-profit, you're just you're in charge and you're doing your thing, and so it's just a different thing. But that if this were viable, it may not be a nonprofit, but the mission is not fiscally viable. So is that any? So well, anyway, we're probably at the end. I think. What time is it?
5 minutes left.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Well, this is the closing remarks then. Speaking of, meeting all of the community members, and not only that, but the students who come here that I would have never met likely before. It's a very rewarding path that I am grateful that I was able to be a part of. And all of you, if that's something that interests you, know that it's not something impossible. I didn't hire lawyers or anything like that to start the organization. But I did have a lot of help from people, including someone who's here, Frank Pearson, I think he's here. Yes. So when I was writing the bylaws, Frank Pearson, who had a lot of experience in nonprofit, he helped me write those bylaws too. So, you know, you get help from people all over the place, and they're usually eager to share their knowledge, because if they come from this path, that's what their career kind of was about. So I would encourage you, and if you feel as a musician that that there's no place for you, then build it. You know, you can create a place, and that's what ultimately building culture is about. It takes hard work, and if you do it, there's a place for that thing, whatever that thing is that you feel is important. So thank you all, and we'll get back to our lessons and coaching and everything, but have a wonderful remainder of the day. Thank you. And thank you, Ted.